Now let's welcome in the former head football coach at Washington and Boise State. Does a great job with Fox Sports, and that is Chris Petersen, kind enough to join us once again on the Zach Gelb Show. Coach, appreciate the time. How you been?
I've been great. How about you, Zach?
Well, I'm fired up and in a good mood, and obviously a lot to react to with what the College Football Playoff Committee did over the weekend. I thought they were going to move Notre Dame in front of Alabama, avoid the Notre Dame-Miami debate, and then debate Alabama and Miami, and Alabama would have been in along with Notre Dame. Ultimately, now we know they kept Alabama 9, they put Miami in at 10, and the Irish were out. How did you react to it yesterday?
Overreaction Monday. No wonder you're in such a good mood. Doesn't everybody love this about college football? I actually thought the committee got it right. Their process to get it right, maybe not so much. But when Notre Dame and Miami became so closely ranked and you looked at their metrics, there is no way from a coach's standpoint that you're going to put Notre Dame in over Miami when we beat you. Like, that goes against everything in sports, in my opinion, to walk into a team room and say, we're kind of about the same and we beat them, but it doesn't matter, you're going. So I think push comes to shove, they got that right. Now, let me say this. I love Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman is awesome. I think they should be in the playoffs. And I think it stinks that just the way it's set up, that they couldn't be in as well. As far as Alabama goes, you know, the SEC is a rough neighborhood, and no one probably had it rougher than Alabama when they're playing ranked team after ranked team after ranked team. I know some of them lost their rankings, but at the time they're pretty good. And then to get into the championship game and have to play a team that you already beat on the road, which is probably the best win in college football at Georgia, and then lose and get bounced, I wasn't seeing that one happen either. So, you know, I think that this whole process is still in the works in terms of tweaking things. I thought they did a good job last year from when they put Arizona State in with a bye and Boise State with a bye, and everyone's like, are we sure here? Do they deserve buys? And so they changed that a little bit. There's going to be some tweaking going on for sure after this year. But I think they got it right for the most part.
Now, you're in an interesting spot because we know what you did at Boise State. There's going to be some people that sit here today and say, like, nothing against John Summerall and Tulane, nothing against Chesney and James Madison. Like, they had phenomenal seasons, but are they really one of the 12 best teams in the country? Now, the format allows them to get in, but people want to see the 12 best teams. Do you think maybe, and I don't think the G5 would ever do this, but should they just maybe form their own playoff and have a group of 5 champion that way, or just continue to be in the situation that they're in right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, and that's for down the road. Is this, you know, is there going to be 30 to 50 teams break away and do their own thing and everybody else? I don't know. I know this. There was, you know, a lot of frustration along the way when we were at Boise. We just wanted access. We wanted to play the good teams. We wanted to get to BCS games and just give us a shot. So I think it's important for the group of 5, group of 6 to have access. Do I think that Tulane and JMU should have both been in this tournament? No, I don't think many do. But it's like, that's what I'm saying. They're going to go back and fix some things. I hope they don't overreact and let a bunch of other teams, not let a bunch of other teams have access. You know, the thing that's wild about this is, like, everybody loves the NFL format. It's really clean and cool. They have 32 teams. We have 134 teams on completely different, you know, apples to oranges in terms of money and competition and all these things. And so that is a really difficult thing to try to cater to all these teams. And that's what's happening right now.
You know, I've said this before, that college football needs a commissioner. I know you told me last time you're not interested. Nick Saban is clearly not interested, so that hasn't changed. But this is what I would do. Like, if I was running college football, and I think what is going to happen is they're going to go to 16. I think that's inevitable. I would just keep the 12-team format, but add in 2 extra spots and have a play-in for the 11 and 12 seed. So have 11 play 14, 12 play 13. So that's, case if there is an instance this year where you have, a Notre Dame that feels like they got screwed or a BYU that gets screwed, there's a little buffer spot there. And those 2 teams would be going up against Tulane and James Madison to prove that they belong. And then, boom, you have a little play-in tournament to get to the 12-team playoff.
I love it. I think there's a lot of good ideas like that. The problem with this whole thing is nobody's really in charge.
Yeah.
The guys that are in charge are in the Big Ten and the SEC. And they're not going to do what's best for the greater good. They will not. They're going to do what's best for their neighborhoods. And so it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things like that. I mean, the other thing that I think, and I'm sure you've talked about this ad nauseum, but the calendar is so
terrible.
Messed up. I mean, and it has to fit on the academic calendar. Like, that's not going away. There's
but that's the problem. It's because now we're treating the athletes like they're professionals, but they still have to operate in the school calendar as amateurs. Like Dan Lanning said it to me last year. They had to wait 30 days. 30 days to play their first college football playoff game after winning the Big Ten. It's nuts. And then the transfer portal and all that is a joke.
Yeah. So I think some of that could be fixed relatively easy. The other thing that I thought was interesting looking at last year, going through it last year, I mean, I love watching college football. I like watching pro football a lot, but I'm a college football guy. When we got into January and all the NFL was into playoffs and there was so much time in between these college football playoffs, I started losing interest. We need to move the season up to start in August, and it needs to be done by January 1st. And let the NFL have all of January and the February Super Bowl. And let college football dominate December and be done. And then you can sign your high school kids. Then you sign your portal kids. Then you have spring football. There's got to be some tweaks and change. It's the modern era. But it just seems so difficult to get everybody, on the same page.
Well, if you look at it right now, like Ole Miss is in the college football playoff. We know Lane Kiffin is already at LSU, and they've already have their new coach who was their DC takeover. Tulane's still getting coached by Summerall, but he's doing 2 jobs at once because he's at Florida. Chesney, right, James Madison and UCLA. That's the other thing. It's how can we create a calendar where you make the playoff and you actually give it to your kids, that have been fighting and working their tails off the entire season to go try to win as many games as possible. That's the part to me. I never thought the coaching carousel would infiltrate the playoffs, but man, this year we've had it with three different teams.
And I mean, now we got teams opting out of both, not players or coaches, teams opting out. And so, I mean, I keep joking about this, but it's not really a joke. The Dr. Pepper Fansville commercial that I just loved because, a couple of years ago, it's like, oh, that's just so outrageous. College football is more outrageous than the actual Fansville commercials that they put on now. It has gone 180. It's like they can't keep up fast enough the craziness that's going on right now.
And here's something I thought about. I think Marcus Freeman is a heck of a coach. Last year got Notre Dame to a national championship. You could make the case they probably should have been in the college football playoff this year. 6, 7, 8 years ago, I'd be sitting there and I'd be saying, hey, I'd rather be a college coach than an NFL coach. Life's easier being a college coach than an NFL coach. Now, I think it's easier to be an NFL head coach than it is a college coach. These NFL jobs are going to keep on calling, and these teams are going to keep on calling Marcus Freeman. Like, should he leave Notre Dame to go be, I don't know, the next coach of the Giants or the next coach of the Steelers?
I can't speak for Marcus. And like I said, I agree with you. I think he is, it seems like he's in it for the right reasons. He is a heck of a coach. I like everything that program stands for, but I can only speak for myself. If I was to get back into coaching, I'm not going into college coaching. I'm going to NFL as well. It is, there's not a coach that I talk with, and I talk with a lot of them, that is good with what's going on. Same with athletic directors. Nobody's good with it. Now, no one's going to come out and complain and woe is me with all the money being thrown, but it is complete chaos. And it started in 2020, right with the pandemic, and it's just continually gotten worse.
When you were in your coaching, did you have opportunities to go be an NFL head coach? Just wondering.
It's interesting. I will say that there was a couple inquiries that I did not take very serious because I really felt what you were saying. Like I was a college guy. I wanted to make impact with these college kids. And the way it's set up now, it's almost everything that we believe in as a coach is out the window. And it's more transactional than the NFL in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying it's all bad being transactional. Do we think kids should be paid and all that? Yes, that train has left the building. But to not be, these are still college kids. The education does matter. I don't care what anyone says. They can still make a bunch of money in college, but it is college. And if they don't like that and want that, then go sit out 3 years and join the NFL. I mean, the times have changed and we have not adapted and changed to keep up with what's going on.
Chris Petersen here with us. From a coaching standpoint, the most impressive coach in the country the last 2 years has been Curt Cignetti. There's so much to this story, but you being a great coach, what stands out to you the most with the job he's been able to do?
I don't even know how to describe this. And I think he's part of the problem, what's going on with college football and all these firings, because they're like, if Indiana and Curt Cignetti can do this, we can do this. And that's not true. This is the most amazing coaching job situation that I've seen in 25 years. Last year was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. He kind of hit the lotto and got some good players and it all lined up. And then he talked all in the offseason about, no, we're building on this, which is a lot of coach speak. But again, he backs it up and it's been amazing. And so everybody's like, we need to get a guy like that. And it's not that simple. It's not. Like the university has to be all in. There has to be complete alignment with the president, with the AD, with the biggest boosters on campus, with players. And to get all these things done in a really fast amount of time is truly remarkable, the job that he's done.
Talking to Chris Petersen right now on the Zach Gelb Show. When we take a glance at Alabama, a lot of people feel like they shouldn't be in the college football playoff. I'm fascinated by their response. We all know Kalen DeBoer, right? Took Washington to a national championship game. He's a heck of a coach. People wonder if he's the right fit at Alabama. What do you think we're going to see out of Alabama as they look to avenge a loss that they had earlier in the season to Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Kalen DeBoer fan because I've seen it up close and personal. Not just the wins at Washington. I know him. I know how he coaches. I know what he's all about. And he is about the right things. So you're always rooting for a guy like that. I know Alabama extremely beat up going into that last game. They're going to get some of their reinforcements back. And I feel for Oklahoma a little bit. Now they have to go do what Alabama had to play Georgia the second time with a loss. So the motivation. And I think they're going to be healthier. I think the motivation, unless Oklahoma can somehow generate some real offense, I don't see Oklahoma getting this one done. I love Oklahoma's defense. They can play with anybody in the country. But Mateer and company are going to have to do a lot more than they've shown the last few weeks to be able to beat Alabama the second time, I think.
And the other thing, too, when you just look at storylines, Joey McGuire was like 26, 2017. He was a legendary high school coach. Matt Rule goes to Baylor, plucks him from high school to join his staff. I think he was like coaching tight ends, works his way up there, stays with Aranda for a year, and then gets a Texas Tech job in 2022. Texas Tech, it's one thing to win the Big 12 and have that story and incredible career rise, but they're going to be a major player here in the college football playoff. Like if you're telling me there's not an SEC or a Big 10 team winning it all, the Red Raiders are going to be high on many people's lists.
100%. And if Curt Cignetti and the Hoosiers were not stealing the headlines, it should be all about Joey McGuire and Red Raiders. I've known Joey for a long time. I used to go recruit his players at Cedar Hill. And I remember watching his practice going, gosh, I wish we had some of those guys. I mean, he had some guys there and did a great job coaching them. And then all the relationships that he has in that hotbed in that state with those high school coaches. But again, it's not so easy for just a really good coach to walk into somewhere if it's not all aligned. And it is what it is. I mean, Cody Campbell and company said, this is our opportunity. Let's strike. We're going to back it to the fullest. Now, they did a great job on spending the money the correct way, because I've seen a lot of guys spend money the wrong way, very little research, panic mode, grabbing guys, overpaying them, and they haven't done that. So I'm with you. I think that Texas Tech could do some real damage in these playoffs. You know, if you just look at how it's set up, not to look ahead past games, you know, we got to play that first round. But the one that's kind of most intriguing to me is the second round with possibly an Oregon Texas Tech matchup that I think could be phenomenal.
You know, I'll tell you, if I didn't have a dog in the fight and I was just a neutral observer and I was looking at all these storylines, it's easy to clearly root for Indiana. But Ole Miss, with losing Lane Kiffin, right, him going to LSU, Pete Golden getting promoted, you know, cursing 4,000 times in the press conference. He's Trinidad Chambliss, Kewan Lacey. Ole Miss is a team that I actually want to see go on a big run in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying loud and clear. You know, the one thing that is really sad, and we talked about this earlier, is these coaches that are leaving. I don't care who it is, whether it's Lane Kiffin or Chesney going to UCLA and, you know, et cetera. That is a major competitive disadvantage for those programs. I've been there. When I left Boise State to come to Washington, I knew the distraction that it would be. So I removed myself. We weren't in the playoffs or anything like that. I removed myself because I didn't want to be a distraction unless everybody else there to coach. But was it different for him? Was it a distraction, me not being there? Yes. It was less of a distraction, me not being there, but it was still a distraction. And so now these guys are trying to build their programs at, you know, at Florida and UCLA, and that is a distraction and a competitive disadvantage way more than people know. So if Ole Miss could rally the troops and they got their coach and make a run in this, it'd be awesome to see.
Last thing I'll ask you, just be remiss if I didn't do so, Coach Chris Petersen, is Boise State got off to a rough start to the season. And I know they were trying to get back to the college football playoff. Spencer Danielson and company, right? Maddox Matson got back for that conference championship game, and they beat up UNLV pretty damn good, especially in the first half. Just how about the coaching job that he did this year after losing Ashton Genty, losing a lot of players that went to the college football playoff, stubbing the toe out of the gate, and still being able to win the conference in their final year there?
I mean, it's been his best coaching job, hands down, since he took over. You know, and he's done some pretty special things. He got the job. You know, he took over halfway during 3 seasons ago and then rallied them and they won a championship. Then last year they go to the college football playoffs with a bunch of good players. And now this year they have a ton of lose a bunch of good players, have a ton of adversity right out of the gate. South Florida get punched in the mouth, hammered them. And then they got to play Notre Dame. And then they get Maddox hurt against Fresno State and lose at home. Very decisively lost. And then lose again the next week to San Diego State in the rain. And so to be able to rally the guys when everything is going against you, all momentum is negative momentum, the fan base has turned on you, and for him and those guys, those kids, to win a championship, I know how hard that is. And it's as impressive as anything I've seen.
Coach Chris Petersen, Coach, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing it. Enjoy the college football playoff, all right?
You too, Zach. Take care.